The Silent Way is an approach to foreign language teaching that was developed by Caleb Cateno in the early 1960s. And it's a unique approach to foreign language teaching and learning because, since it's called the Silent Way, and at first people say, well, why is it called the Silent Way if it has to do with language and language learning? Well, it's Silent Way because the teacher is silent and can focus on the learning of the students. So it's unique also in the sense that there is no textbook use, and we do use props that facilitate the learning. Caleb Cateno, a man who was born in Egypt in, I believe, 1911, and he passed away in 1988. He developed the approach based on his own experience of learning a foreign language. He was not satisfied with the more traditional translation type of and drill-like teaching and learning, and he experimented and he developed this approach. I use the props. They're not absolutely necessary, but they do facilitate. So what I do is, first of all, I have my students, they need to be on board. They need to understand what the process is so that they're not scared of it. They have no textbook to latch on to, and sometimes they don't even have the teacher to latch on to, because as I tell them from the very beginning, the focus is on them. And sometimes I disappear to the back side of the class so that no one sees me, and the focus really is on them. Takes a lot of patience on my part as an instructor, and a lot of understanding and a lot of observing of students learning. What I love about the approach is that it's all based on discovery, and students really discover the language. They don't memorize. Hopefully they won't forget. But it's those tiny and sometimes huge moments of discovery that completely make this worthwhile.
Color. S. Una. Regleta. Oh. JK color S. Tus regletas. Son. JK color son. Tus regletas.
Tus regletas son. What does that mean?
The way it compares to other approaches is that the Silent Way is slower because in the Silent Way we focus on quality rather than quantity. I've taught with many, many different approaches. I've learned approaches, and I've even taught different approaches to other instructors. And what I see is that most methods, most approaches use a textbook where students are required to memorize, to learn lots of vocabulary, lots of structure, lots of culture. But what they're missing is really the basis and the essence of the language. And with the Silent Way, again, it's based on quality rather than quantity. And so you really focus on the building blocks, the patterns and the structure of the language, and then you can build. You're constructing something, and it stays with you.
I've taken Spanish for 5 years, and all of it has been with the textbook and the lecture, and I failed it twice, and it was horrible. So this has definitely helped to have better grades. I feel like I'm actually learning the language instead of just getting by with group activities and just speaking and just observing. I mean, less lectures and more interaction. That was the key.
The steps involved for the Silent Way for students, they just need to be more observant and willing to let go and willing to discover the language. Their attitude needs to be positive. and for the teacher as well. I think key with the silent way is a lot of love. The instructor needs to love the language and love to teach and love his or her students in the sense of loving the process and seeing them go through that process. There's a creation of a community in the classroom, and an instructor needs to be able to be sensitive enough for that. Not all students are at the same level all the time, and it takes an instructor who really loves what he or she does and really accepts the students for who they are to bring them all on board, all together. From my perspective, I feel that students are having fun. It's sort of like a game. We don't use the props all the time. There comes a time when we use other things in class, maybe objects in the classroom or ideas, and it never seems as though it's a boring class, because I walk into class never knowing what is going to happen. I plan, kind of, because I know what the structure of the Spanish language is, so I know where we're going, and I know the elements that are important to teach and to learn. But the curriculum is really guided by the students. If they want to express something and they don't have that structure or that word, that's where we go. And there's a lot of improvisation, but a lot of thinking behind it. And so I just want to say that from my perspective, I'm having fun, but also students are having fun.